What's the difference between a lobster and Alex Lamb being run over by a bus? One's a crustacean and the other is a crushed Asian. You get it? It's a lobster joke. Hey, I'm Alex Lamb, and in this episode of Stories of the World, we'll be talking about Grady Franklin Stills Jr., also known as Lobster Boy. This gentleman has lived such a crazy life, it's full of its highest ups and lowest downs. So when we look at his life, it can be a little heartbreaking trying to understand this man's inner demons and why he did what he did. So when we go through the story, I'd like you guys to be a little bit open-minded. So let's get to the story. The Stills family has been suffering from an unusual physical condition known as ectrodactyly for a few generations. The rare cognitive deformity causes the middle fingers to either be missing or seemingly fused to the thumb and the pinky, making them look like lobster claws. Majority of the world would view this as a disadvantage in life, but for the Stills family, they turned it into an opportunity. From the 1800s, as the family grew and produced more children with unusual hands and feet, they developed a circus called the Lobster Family, which became a carnival staple throughout the early 20th century. They reportedly made between $50,000 to $80,000 per season, which is equal to about $1.5 million to $2.5 million in today's money. And unlike other circus acts, all they had to do was endure the weird stares. The Stills family had a rather good reputation, but one family member changed it all. Grady Stills Jr., who later becomes known as Lobster Boy, tarnishes the family name when he becomes a serial abuser and a murderer. Grady Stills Jr. was born in Pittsburgh in 1937. He suffered from a severe case of ectrodactyly. In addition to his hands, his feet also had the condition, which prevented him from walking. So for most of his life, he was using a wheelchair. He learned how to maneuver around with his upper body, which resulted in an abnormal upper body strength, which helped him in his drunken rages later in life. Stills grew up in the carnival world, so it wasn't surprising that as a young man, he fell in love with another carnival worker, a young woman named Maria, though some sources say Mary, Teresa, who had run away to join the circus as a teen. She wasn't part of any act, just a regular staff member. She fell in love with Stills and the two eventually married. Together they had two children, and like the previous generations, introduced the children with ectrodactyly to the family circus. One of the children, Kathy, did not have the rare condition and was believed to be seen as the ugly duckling of the family. And this is where the Stills family began to take a dark turn. Stills became abusive towards his wife and children. He drank, which fueled the rage, and combined with his powerful upper body strength, he would beat them and often used his hands to choke his wife, which they were seemingly designed to do so well. At one point, he allegedly used his claw-like hands to rip his wife's IUD from within her during a fight. That's crazy. That is crazy. And what's even more terrifying, that wasn't the worst of it all. When Grady Stills' daughter, Donna, was set to marry a young man he didn't approve of, he did the unthinkable, cold-blooded murder. No one's sure exactly what happened, but it's either Stills went to see his daughter's fiancé at his home, or he invited the young man over under the appearance of giving his blessing for the wedding. But what we know for sure was he was murdered the day before the wedding. Stills picked up his shotgun and killed the young man at point blank range. Making no attempt to hide it, he was soon arrested and put on trial. Stills admitted to the murder, showing no remorse, and he also made the point that he couldn't possibly be in prison. No jail could cater to his disability, and to confine him to a prison would be a cruel punishment. The court realized they really had no counter arguments. During this time, the prisons were not well equipped to deal with many disabilities, and certainly not Stills' incredibly rare condition. So they let him off with 15 years probation and he returned home. Stills' wife, Maria, divorced him. He soon remarried another woman and had two more children, which he also abused, resulting in the second wife leaving him. Now, what's really strange here, and no one really understands why, but his first wife agrees to remarry him in 1989. Let's stop for a second and take a step into Grady Stills' mind. He just murdered someone, admitted to it in court, and dodged prison time. He would have thought that he was above the law. So he continued beating his wife, increasing in severity till finally she reached her breaking point. A few years after she remarried Stills, she paid the 17-year-old neighbor, Chris Wyant, $1,500 to kill him. One night, Wyant took a .32 Colt automatic into Stills' trailer and shot him dead at point blank range. Not a single one of them denied that their goal was to kill Grady Stills. During the trial, his wife spoke at great lengths of his abusive history. "My husband was going to kill my family," she told the court. "I believe that from the bottom of my heart." At least one of their children, Kathy, testified against him as well. The jury convicted Wyant of second-degree murder and sentenced him to 27 years in prison. They charged his wife and her son Glenn with first-degree murder. She received a sentence of 12 years in prison. She unsuccessfully appealed her conviction and began to serve her sentence in February of 1997. She had tried to get Glenn to take a plea bargain, but he refused. The court sentenced him to life in prison. Lobster Boy was so hated, the funeral home could not find a single person willing to be pallbearers. Now, it's insane to think someone lived such a crazy life. I mean, he came to Earth with the rare condition on both hands and feet. He was born into a rich family. He got to fall in love, which, not many people can do. He got to have kids, but somewhere amongst all that, he turned pure evil. He killed someone, evaded jail legally. It just really goes to show everyone has inner demons that we will never ever understand. I mean, if we think about it, isn't life just about, making money to enjoy the finer things in life, to eat, clothing, and whatnot? Getting married and fall in love and have kids. Why would he, go down to murder? It's just, for me, it's so hard to understand. But I guess the lobster part maybe played a really big role, right? So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. So that's the story of the Lobster Boy, Grady Stills Jr. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to hear more stories. I'm Alex Lam, and this is Stories of the World. Oh yeah, also be sure to check out my previous videos.